Hey, Juan David, how are you? Thank you for being here with me today. I'm going to start the interview now. So I'll first ask you to please briefly introduce yourself, your role, and whether you work in remote, hybrid, or in office environment.
Hi, Santiago. Sure. Yeah, I'm working as an investment analyst for a nonprofit company. The nonprofit is based in the US, but it operates worldwide. I'm currently in Colombia, but as I just told you, our team is all over the world. So I would say that I mainly work in a hybrid mode. So sometimes I need to go to the office here in Bogota with my teammates that are here in the city, but most of the time I'm remotely.
It's nice. And then you just mentioned you are part of a team. So could you describe briefly your team structure, so the size and the hierarchy of your team?
Yeah, sure. I'm part of the investments team within my organization. I'm in the, let's say, low part of the hierarchy right now, since I just joined the company like 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And the size in my investments team is not so big. So I have around four positions that are over me within the team.
So how many people are you guys? Six?
And no, I think that within the team, all over the world, we are around 25 people, something like that.
In
But
the
I
in
have
the
like
investments team, right?
positions. So, for example, senior analyst and positions like that, around four over me.
Okay. Okay. And you work closely with how many people? Around how many people are like,
Closely, let's say with six people, I work closely. Uh, Two of them are not in here in Colombia, are in the US, and the other four are here.
oh, nice. And working with the team, what would you say are the most important things or the pillars of having a successful team?
I would say that mostly that my work is remotely, but we also meet here, is communication. Since I mean, for example, the people I talk the most are not here and are in the US. So we just have in-person interaction like 2 or 3 times per year. And then I think that communication is very important so that we can trust each other also and also cooperate in the best way possible to meet our goals.
No, so I think that communication is super important. And I heard you mention trust in your answer. So I wanted to ask you, how do you think trust is built and maintained in your team?
I think it differs from each person, but I think that for the team members that I can meet here in person, we usually meet every week and we have lunch and also we have like other time to talk about different topics that just from work. So for example, one of my best friends in here in the organization has like the same passion for soccer as me. So we made a really good connection. And for the people that are not here, I think that it's also important to find those times where you can talk about different things and not just work.
Those activities outside work, I also think are super important. And given that you work hybrid, do you feel that there have been any limitations to building trust within your team? So, for example, comparing the people you see at the office and maybe those that are completely remote, do you think that uh, makes a difference? And how do you get your teammates to trust you, for example, the ones that are far away compared to the ones here? Well, they're in the city with you.
I think that yes, distance is a limitation, but it also depends on each person. So there are people that make trust with each others easier than other ones. So I think it's a combination of both, depending on the person. And but I mean, distance is a limitation. So I personally prefer in-person interactions, and being far from others, it makes it harder. But what I do usually with that is that I try to find the spaces where we can talk about different things. So I don't know if I have someone in the US that also likes soccer like me, that is a point where we can talk about something different and make a better connection and a better relationship.
Looking on that, do you think that trust is something that you are constantly working on, or is it something that comes out naturally? Like, are there any specific dynamics or habits that you or your team have implemented to create like better connections?
I think that both. So I think that mostly for me it comes like naturally from seeing each other's and finding things that we both like, or how they act or how they think. But I think that also sometimes you need to work on them, since, for example, there are people that are a little bit more cold, let's say, and it's harder to make some connections with them. So to make them trust you, you need to work on that and to talk a little bit more with them and find things that you both have in common.
And how do you get people to trust you? Since you say that you kind of have to work on that. How do you get, for example, your boss or your manager to trust your work?
I think that by showing that I do a good work is also something very important, because that is kind of what they're expecting of me. And also like trying to reach out to if I have any doubts or something like that. I think that is also very important, so that they can trust on what I am doing.
Okay, cool. And so you're hybrid now. Imagine that you were completely remote. Do you think your perspective on how to build trust will be different? I think we spoke a little bit about this already, but I wanted to be very clear on that.
I think that yes, because as I just said, distance is a limitation. I mean, you can work on that. So I think it will be harder to get trust or to get the others to trust you. But I think it's also possible. So I think that I will need to push a little bit more to find things in common a little bit more, if I was completely remote. But I think it's possible. And yeah, I think it's a little bit harder, but possible.
Okay. And now flipping the coin, what would you say is something that you think can immediately break trust within your team? Um,
I would say that if you find someone not saying the truth, so if they are lying to you on something they have been doing or the way they do things, I think that will break the relationship a little bit and also the trust. So I think that when someone lies, you immediately lose the trust that you have on them.
for sure. And then in your team, how do you guys resolve conflict? And how do you think trust plays a role on these situations?
I mean, we didn't have too much conflict so far, but I think that trust is important there, because if you trust the other people or the other persons that are working with you, you're gonna be able to resolve the conflicts easier, because they're gonna explain you and you're gonna trust them and believe what they are saying, and that way, communicating well, you're gonna be able to resolve any conflict, I say.
Yeah, feel the same way. And then um, moving on the next, I think something important is also how do you make your teams feel supported when sharing their ideas and feedback? So, for example, if there is conflict, how do you make an environment that people feel that they're okay saying something that maybe is against your point or your opinion?
I think it's very important to mention that I mean, also to request feedback, to say, I think like this, what do you guys think? Or do you think that my approach is correct or not? I think that's important. And also like making them feel comfortable. So if they say something, you're not just saying, no, my idea is correct, but also taking into account those other points and trying to build an idea together.
Yeah, makes sense. Like actually make them feel heard. So that's a good that's a good approach. And then focusing now maybe more on your leaders. Do you think there are any leadership traits that you have found to be most effective in fostering trust within your team?
I think that yes, for example, my first leader, let's say, it's not in Colombia, it's in the US. And I think that something that he really does and help us is like we try to meet each week to talk about different topics. So, for example, yesterday was the Super Bowl. So, for example, probably this week we will talk about the Super Bowl, and it's a topic that it's completely different from work, and that help us like to be more have more connections between us, I guess.
So just the last question. Sorry to take your time, but if you could change or add one thing to improve trust and team performance in your work environment, what would it be?
For me personally, I would for sure prefer to be all in person and to meet probably not every day, but 2 or 3 times per week, at least. So I would say that interaction in person makes it more easy to have trust and to trust each other. So yeah, I would change that.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Honda. I think that's been all for today. Really appreciate your time. Have a good one.
Bye.